Good morning, everyone. As Tim mentioned, and thank you, Tim. As Tim mentioned, I'm here today to share a little bit of a different perspective with each of you, some of the experiences and conversations that we have had within our team recently. But before I do that, I thought I'd start off with telling you a little bit about who we are and exactly where we fit in the ecosystem. IMSWorkX may be a name you're not familiar with yet. I invite you to check us out. We are a relatively new player in this space. I've been around for a while, and actually the base product set that we have has been around for nearly a decade. But we're just starting to get some visibility and momentum. So what do we do and where do we fit? We provide for our carrier customers, we provide a service delivery platform, or basically a place where applications can be created and deployed and delivered ultimately to end users. But far more interesting is that in addition to that platform, we're providing those folks who are creating the applications a developer community, a place where they can get tools and support and information on how to build those applications and interact with the particular tool set that we have. So as Tim mentioned, Tim met me at the SDP Summit in September this year, and I was a panelist there, and what we were talking about on our panel was how do you build a developer community and what's good and useful and everything about having a good developer community. So when Tim met me, he asked if I would come and talk to everybody here, and I thought a lot about what I would share, what I would bring to this organization, and I decided to just be very open and very honest with you all about some of the conversations we have had recently in looking at how we're going to move forward in some of the feature sets and items we want to add to our product set. So very recently, you know, everybody has limited resources, everybody has initiatives that they want to undertake for the year, everybody has a roadmap. We sat down and we started looking at our roadmap and asking, do we want to put time and effort into supporting some of these standardized network APIs, things like are coming out of the OMA group or even some of the other groups out there? Is this something we want to build into our products? Is this something that is going to be useful and a compelling story for us moving forward? So as we talked about this, it kind of came up, you know, where is this coming from? Well, in general, we can see that some of the very large competitors and the, you know, players in the competitive space are working with and talking about and advertising their support for the standardized APIs. There are some large players, maybe even in this room, who are investing a lot of money, a lot of effort into saying they're going to have that checkbox. They support the open API. They support this. They support that. So they're definitely talking about it. In addition to the competitive space, obviously, you folks are here. There's a lot of operators and carriers who are talking about this as an initiative. They're talking about opening up developer communities, talking about hosting maybe some of the hackathons and those types of things that are going on. So in general, we're seeing that there is a buzz or a whole lot of conversation going on about the APIs and about the need for them. But in spite of all this that we're hearing and reading and researching, our real life, if you will, our day-to-day life, we're not getting asked for anything along these lines. As Tim mentioned, we're a little bit of a smaller player. So our customers are the smaller carriers, they're the regionals, they're some of the niche carriers. And the reality is they're not thinking about this today. The idea of opening up or exposing their network interfaces or enabling a third party or an external player into their network is just not on the radar scope, at least not in the ones that we're talking to right now. Their reality is they are still very, very ingrained into the big IP network migration, moving the IN services over to IP. This is what they're focused on, and this is where they need the help right now. So going hand in hand with this, we then took a look at, or asked ourselves, well, who's building applications? Whether it be on our platform or another third-party platform out there, who's actually building them to be offered for the end users? And today, what we came back with, and it was part of the outcome of the SDP Summit as well, today the answer to this really is it's still the carriers or the operators themselves or your contractors or your vendors are the ones building up what we think of as communication applications right now. And that's fine. But there's a lot of improvement that even that community is looking for in how applications are being built and how they're moving forward. So I'll use the example. We're working with 3 different carriers right now. All 3 of them are looking at changing over their toll-free services. So their toll-free services have evolved historically. They are, for whatever reasons, their toll-free, if you will, offering is multiple different services on different platforms, on different networks, all with different infrastructure, some with different interfaces, different user experiences. So they're not only asking the question or coming to us right now with help moving these services off the IN over to IP so that they're available on their IP base, but they also want to consolidate between their geographic areas, maybe the different countries, their business units, maybe their enterprise group does something differently than their consumer group. So there's things that they want to be able to do and consolidate and do freely and easily, even though we are talking about within the carrier themselves. It's these intra-network boundaries that we think can be overcome with an API. So if you're looking at that's who is building an application, what are the tools and what are the things that they need in order to build those applications, and you come up with 2, I think, pretty simple and straightforward bullets. First and foremost, they need easy-to-use tools. So we're talking about, graphical programmers interfaces, well-defined, easy-to-use calls and functions. Basically, a set of good support tools, those types of things. Basically, they need the tools to be able to build up their applications quickly and easily, regardless of who's doing it. And also clear, well-defined, and easy-to-use APIs. Not necessarily saying standardized APIs here, but you need that abstracted, easy to make a function call. You don't have to get into the nuts and bolts of how an SMS message works. You just know you want to send a message, for example. So even within the operators or the contractors or their vendors or folks who are currently within the ecosystem, it's still easier and desirable to go out and be able to hire and populate the application space developers with Java, web-based programmers, people with that level of experience, rather than people who are your more traditional protocol experts. So at that point, we took a step back and we tried to take a look at what is the purpose of the standardized network APIs. Where is that targeting? Who is it going after? What is it looking to accomplish? And that's part of why I'm very grateful to have been invited here. I'm looking for more input, maybe, on this answer. One of the primary answer I've heard so far is that this is targeting now third-party app developers or application developers who are not currently within the telecommunications ecosystem. And applications that may or may not need cross-operator interfaces, things that are going to be truly over-the-top services that will move from network to network to network, and you want to be able to do that seamlessly and easily. So okay, we'll accept that there may be third-party applications out there and third-party application developers, but we still ask the basic question, what is it that that developer needs? And we come up with a lot of the same things, which is they need the easy-to-use tools and they need clear, well-defined interfaces. And notice again, we're not saying standardized interfaces here. We're saying a good, well-defined, well-documented interface. I would go so far, though, to say that these developers are actually looking for some additional items as well. They're really looking for that developer community. They're looking for really good documentation. They're looking for a lot of examples. They want to know folks have used this interface before, have got a service working with it, that they know they can rely on it, that it's robust, and that there's somebody to ask a question to. And then there's that piece of it too, the good user community. There's the need to go to a place on the web be able to post a question, how do I, or have you seen this, or does anybody have any examples? And they need that, that community and that infrastructure. And those types of things are going to be more important, I would say, in my opinion, even than being standardized. As long as there's a good support mechanism and a good community in place, that's where your developers are going to gravitate to. So they're also looking for free to use, freely available, public, like Brian was saying, APIs. And it's kind of funny, I'm following Brian because, as he pointed out, there are a lot of APIs right now out there to choose from. So where are we today and where did we end up? The reality is our current customer base are finding it easy or easier to work with non-standard APIs, or basically our interface, than they are asking for or looking to migrate to a more standardized interface or provide a more standardized interface. And I think the primary reason for that is because when they work with us, and I'm sure it's true with some of the other vendors out there, they get a lot of help. Like I said, we have that developer community. We have our web portal. You can go in, and it's a dynamic, it's an interesting group, always trying to increase and add more users to that to share more knowledge. So we've decided that's what's important for us today to focus on, that it's our job right now to focus on building up and expanding our tool set, making that the best possible tool set that we can imagine it to be, expanding the interfaces so that we are offering more and more capabilities through APIs, or supporting more and more exposure of capabilities through APIs, and really focusing mostly on that, on building that community, good documentation, good examples, good tools, good testing, all that type of thing. In the future, you know, do I foresee that we will someday build in and check the box saying that we support the OMA Standard API? Well, maybe. And I cannot de-emphasize that first bullet enough. If we're asked for it, you betcha we'll do it. If we were to see an increased customer demand, and maybe that'll happen in that 2 years or 5 year time frame where some of this, as tier ones and the larger carriers are successful, that'll trickle down and it'll affect some of the customers we're working with today. In which case we'll, you know, be far more educated and involved with you guys at that point. From our perspective, I wanted to highlight this is not a technical question. From our perspective, using a standard API or building to a standard is the easier path to go. I mean, basically, you guys give us the definition, we go and implement it, and it's all done. There's a lot less thinking and, I would say, somewhat creativity involved. But, again, that's not where we're being asked to focus right now, so it's not where we are. Well, I want to thank you all for inviting me. I hope you found this perspective at least a little bit interesting, and I look forward to the panel.